Okay. Good evening. This meeting is now called to order. This is the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for Monday, May the 20th. I'm the chair, Councilmember Xanthalva for the 3rd District, and at this time I will call roll for those members of the committee first. Councilman Vince White, Vice Chair.
Present.
Councilmember Latrice Bracy. Councilmember Nathan Field. Councilmember Brigida Fields.
Present.
Councilmember James Spadola.
Present.
Councilmember President Trippy Congo. Okay. Now I'm calling members who are not on the committee. Councilmember Michelle Harley.
Present.
Is there any other council members on line that I'm not able to see? As a friendly reminder, only members of the committee should be making motions and seconding. But we're going to start off, we're going to rearrange the agenda a little bit. We're going to start with Vince. Could you give us your title, please?
Sure. Vince Croce, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Public Works.
Can we begin? We're going to start with ordinance 24028, and you can explain it, please.
Okay. This ordinance is to extend, authorize an extension of 3 one-year extensions to a contract that was issued on a RFP, contract 22002 WDPS for pump, valve, and miscellaneous mechanical equipment maintenance services at our water plants. Municipal Maintenance Corp. is the company that was awarded through an RFP process, and what this ordinance does is amend the contract to extend it for the 3 one-year periods. The estimated price per extension is $982,150 a year, and that is eligible to be adjusted by the Wilmington, Philadelphia, and vicinity CPIU.
Does anybody have any questions? I do have a question.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead. I'm sorry.
As usual, the devil's in the details. So we have escalators, CPI.
Right.
And what are the what was the escalators like last year? What type of increase?
I don't recall for the second year. I can tell you that I just did one yesterday. So for this particular year, April through April, we were looking at 4.1% increase.
So it's your professional opinion that in the year after this contract amount could go up 4%.
It could potentially, it's up to that amount. So a lot of times we'll make the contractor justify their costs as to why they're asking for what they're asking for. If we believe that it's fair, we would agree to the one-year extension. But the extensions are at the city's. The contractor obviously has to agree to it, but it's our decision as to whether or not we will extend for that year. If they were to give us a price that we felt was too high, we could always, go out and do another RFP.
And Madam Chairman, one last question.
Sure, please.
So again, we've heard the rationale for the contract extensions that it saves money, and so I guess what I'm asking you, how does that correlate to what we're having the conversation? What kind of money are we saving?
On this particular contract here, this is a professional services agreement for pump, valve, and miscellaneous maintenance of our water plants. So actually, when we issued the RFP on this back in '22, they were the only company that responded to it. So, yeah, these are services that we need to keep our plants functional. We spend what we can spend based on how much we're allocated through our annual operating and capital budgets. And if there wasn't funding in place to do something, or if costs were too high, it just wouldn't get done.
So these are just, when you have sole solicitations or sole solicitors, the back end of this is a more optimal way to capture them for the remaining years?
Exactly. So we've gone out on multiple RFPs. This contract has been issued every 2 to 3 years as long as I've been here, and we get limited. There's only so many firms in the area that can do this kind of work.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to recognize President Trippy Congo. Any more questions? Mr. Vince, I think Councilman Vince asked a question. I was going to ask you how much were we saving, and I do remember you mentioning this contract to me a year or so ago, and you was looking for RFP. So I'm just glad you found somebody to take care of that pump. Okay, we have no questions from the council members. Do we have any questions from any members in the audience? And does anybody out there like to speak in regards to this? No. Okay. If there's no one like to, any questions or make any comments regarding this ordinance, it is an ordinance, it's required to be voted out of committee. Is there a motion to move this out of committee?
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second, the ordinance to be voted out of committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, may I be added as a co-sponsor?
Sure,
Such an exciting piece of legislation.
sure. We have anybody else who'd like to be a co-sponsor? Okay, this will be on the agenda. Carrie, you know what they, this will be on June 6th, council meeting. Thank you. Vince, Mr. Vince, could you speak for ordinance 24-029? No, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a similar maintenance contract that is utilized at our water facilities. This is what we refer to as contract 22003 WDPS, and this is for water distribution system electrical equipment, management and maintenance services between the City of Wilmington and Willier Electric Motor Repair Company. Again, similar contract was issued on an RFP at the same time as the previous contract I spoke for. We've been under contract for 3 years now. What this ordinance and amendment would do would be to extend the contract for 3 more one-year extensions with a base amount of $1,173,470 for year 1 of the extension period. And again, this one is also tied to Philadelphia, Wilmington, Camden, and vicinity CPIU for potential adjustments. Again, we would make the contractor justify what they were asking for and you know, make sure that we had agreed with that before extending in any of the extension periods.
Vince, I think I asked you this probably. Why is it so hard to get these RPs and out of the companies retire? I mean, most of the ones who used to really be into them.
Yeah, some of these RPs is specialty work. So these particular companies are doing work in all of our water plants, so they have to do annual inspections of electrical equipment, produce reports indicating, you know, what things need to be repaired, a priority list, and then work with our staff to determine what repairs can be done. They do maintenance on various equipment, motors, pumps, VFDs, and that type of thing. So it's somewhat specialty work for the utility.
Do we have any questions from members of the committee? When you, I have one more question. When you say the urban consumers from all items, these are individuals who work in Philly, Camden, and Wilmington?
So this is a Bureau of Labor Statistics index for Wilmington, Philadelphia, Camden vicinity for urban CPI. It's published in the on the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. We reference that in the contract so that everybody's talking apples to apples as to what we will look at for adjustments. That's typically the index that we use.
Do we have anyone from the public that'd like to make any comments? Anyone else from the committees? If not, this is also an ordinance, and it's required to vote by committee members. Is there a motion to move it out of committee?
Motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Okay. Vince, could you go to your,
Certainly. All right, so the next ordinance is to authorize
could you say the
extension.
number, please? I mean,
Sure.
I say it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to. Okay, so the next one is an ordinance to amend, it's ordinance 24-030, ordinance to authorize and approve 2 one-year extensions of an amended contract 24009 PWPS. This is a contract between Asset Management Alliance and the city for our municipal complex for building management and maintenance services. We just went through the first year of a contract for services to assist at the complex. As that facility is getting a little older, there's a lot more maintenance that needs to happen there. We were very happy with what Asset Management was able to bring to the table, and therefore we are seeking authorization for 2 one-year extensions, which this was in the RFP that was issued that Asset provided a proposal for. The estimated first extension year cost is $847,551. And again, this is also tied to CPIU for the subsequent 2-year periods.
I do have a question. Could you explain to the public what is the new figure C-2C regarding, what is that? On the synopsis. I mean, I know it says patches and
The
all
new,
that, but.
so within Exhibit, the Exhibit A in the agreement, the estimated price for the first extension year would be $847,551. Then that would, plus a potential CPI increase for the second year. So the CPI increase could be, you know, whatever the 12-month CPI is going to end up for this, over this next year. If it was, say, 4%, they could seek up to a 4% increase for the second extension year.
So I'm on page 3.
Okay.
And it says, this ordinance has, no fiscal impact.
Yes, the fiscal impact. So the contract in year 1, as I said, was $847,551. So that's already been budgeted for in our recently approved operating budget for fiscal '25. And then for the second increase, which would be our fiscal '26, it would be that amount, plus they could seek whatever the CPI, the 12-month CPI went up in the previous year.
Okay, do we, questions? Anyone have any questions? Any committee members?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I could take this response offline. In your request for proposal, you make a reference, the city makes a reference about this person doing business shall follow the global Sullivan principles, right?
Exactly.
And I don't want to get into all of them, but A, support universal human rights, respect employees' voluntary freedoms of association, promote fair competition. My question is, how do you evaluate that? And again, you get back to me later. Do you evaluate it, or is this just wordsmithing? If
So
how's it done?
my supervisors work very closely, that are our building manager and assistant manager work very closely with Asset in performing the work at the municipal complex. We know what vendors they're bringing in. We interact with their employees. You know, if somebody's not being treated fairly, we hear about it.
Madam Chair, one last.
Yeah, please.
So
follow up.
is that an assessment done on a yearly basis? Thank you.
I don't think there's no formal assessment done, but again, they, if the subcontractors they're bringing in are complaining about how the prime contractor is treating them or whatever, our folks hear about it. I mean, normally we have not received any type of complaints and that type of thing. I've used these folks at the city-county building here for a number of years, and you know, they're very fair with their subcontractors.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have any other questions from committee members? Do we have any questions from non-committee members? Do we have any questions from the public? Okay, now go back to members of council. If there's no members from council, this is an ordinance. It has to be voted out of committee. May I have a motion?
Motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. All them in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. This will be on June the 6th. We have Councilmember Bracy online. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Latrice Bracy. Okay, Mr.
Thank you,
Vin-
Madam Chair.
Sure. Mr. Vince, you have another one? Would you like to?
Okay, this would be ordinance 24031, an ordinance to amend Chapter 42 of the City Code to revise the Underground Facilities Coordination Manual. There's one minor change that's being made to Figure 2C, specifically for gas line work where it allows use of a concrete, 8-inch concrete Class A patch over top of the gas line installation. Typically, we had called for deep lift asphalt, but in certain times of the year when the asphalt wasn't available, our folks, our friends at Delmarva asked if they could continue to use concrete. So this essentially amends the underground facilities manual to allow what we told them that they could do. More of a housekeeping or cleanup.
Okay, anyone have any questions? I know it's housekeeping, but.
I know
not
it's housekeeping
it's
too,
not,
but
it's
this is
not.
this is a point of education.
That's right.
Sure.
So, pros and cons of
Pros and
allowing
cons?
them to do this.
This is typically the type of construction that we allowed prior to council voting on the changes to the Underground Facilities Coordination Manual back in November of '22. Once we got rolling with that, it's easier for us on certain streets to do deep lift asphalt. It's easier to patch. Okay. Sometimes you get different expansion coefficients. If the road base on a road was old cobblestones that had multiple layers of asphalt in it, now you've dug a utility trench, you've put concrete in there, that's going to expand differently than the subbase of the rest of the road. So you could get cracking along the trench line. So my engineers felt it best to be able to just use deep lift asphalt, and that's what we ran with.
So
the problem with that is in the wintertime, when hot mix isn't available, then it won't hold together with cold patch. So the folks, our friends at Delmarva had asked us, well, can we go back to just using, we want to make sure our gas line is secure,
Right.
that no, and we're just like, yeah, that makes sense. We can go back and start putting concrete over top of it in the winter.
Yeah, they did that on my street, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Was going to be my question. I knew you knew the answer, but I was worried about the deterioration of that
Right.
asphalt, even on the deep
you like-
trenching. But thank you.
Are you asking a question?
I'm sorry.
That's good.
Thank you, ma'am. My apologies, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I got a question.
Sure, go ahead. That's what I feel.
How you doing? My question is, once they do all the patching, whose responsibility is it to go back and check to make sure that everything is leveled, there's no bumps or whatever? So those people that live in that neighborhood or potentially drive down that street.
I know. This is probably one of the most frequent calls I get about this. So what we did and what council did in amending the Underground Facilities Coordination Manual back in November of '22, for all the state-maintained roads, once folks pull a road cut permit, in this case to do gas work, or whether it be for private sewer, water services, electrical conduit, fiber optics, what have you, when they pull the permit, we calculate based on the formulas in the manual what the restoration cost is. The utility that's doing the work is then responsible to backfill the trench, properly tamp it in lifts, and then perform temporary permanent restoration. In other words, either a hot mix, or if it is cold patch, they have to hold that together. They pay us the restoration cost, and once they tell us that that work order is closed and it's ready for paving, we send our contractor out and do the paving. That way we can control who's paving, where it's being paved. There were a lot of trenches and things prior to council making these changes in '22 where the permanent restoration, i.e. the mill and pave of the road, just wasn't being done. And we were finding that when we would do our pavement condition assessment every 2 years and find trenches that had never been permanently restored. So we changed all this in the code to allow us, we're the paver. So you pay us, you tell me when your trench is ready, we'll come out, we'll proof roll it, we'll make sure everything's right, and then we'll pave it.
Madam Chair, so that means I can call you?
You call me.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman, any other council members on the committee like to ask a question? If not, Councilman Harley, please feel free.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vince, the road work on Church Street between, I want to say 10th and 8th Street, is that work done by the city of Wilmington or DelDOT?
On Church Street, I would have to check what the nature of the work is.
I meant to say Spruce. I'm sorry,
On
forgive
Spruce,
me. I
yeah,
meant to say-
Spruce is, that's gas work that's going on, but Spruce Street is a state-maintained road. And actually, I was just talking with our friends from Delmarva about that. They're going to be responsible for paving that section of road where they did their gas line replacement. I actually mentioned,
Okay.
I was down on Spruce Street the other day. I know what the condition's like.
Okay, sir. All
right.
right. So you know exactly what I'm talking about,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vincent, good point. Who was doing the work on Vanderbilt Avenue? Because they did the work over there in the street. It's still not repaid. That's my first
I would have to
question.
check on that and find out who pulled the permits. If it's work that was, whether we did it or others, we've got the paving season really just kicked off at the beginning of the, the mid-April. So we've got a lot of locations in queue to pave.
Well, thank you. Just following up, please put that on your radar because they've been waiting for over a year now. And Commissioner Kelly said that it would be this when the weather breaks. Now the weather's breaking.
I've actually
And
had
Senator
two-
Brown's been calling, and everybody's been calling me. It's like they have a whole petition over there because they've been waiting for 2 years to get that repaid.
Right. I actually just led another contract, so we'll have 2 active paving contracts and have 2, more folks out paving in various locations.
And my last question is, what are y'all using? I think you just said it. I mean, so for the audience, I mean, it just seems like as soon as you fill a hole, and next thing you know, the hole is right there. What is it new? What is new about whatever materials that they're using? Why is there so many potholes all over the city? I mean, the one on 3rd Street busted 2 of the ladies' tires.
Right.
I mean, what are they using that it's not staying?
Typically, through the winter months, when hot mix asphalt's not available, they'll use cold patch.
And the cold patch is not working.
Once it gets wet or freeze thaw a few times,
Just
it
bust
pops out. So we put all these, as soon as the plant's open, or if we can get small batches of it, my street maintenance division will try to get hot mix, and we'll go out and do pothole repair. They've spent the last month and a half doing that. Now that we're paving again and the contractors are mobilized, all the locations that are either in our paving portfolio for the year or locations for road cuts that we have to go back and get. There's, I believe they told me about 50 or 60 locations that we've issued work orders for at this point, so.
So it's safe to tell people now they can start calling 311 if they having problems with the potholes
Exactly,
because it's
exactly.
the season. Okay. Okay, if there's no more questions, this is ordinance that has to be voted out of committee. May I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. This will be on June the 6th council meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your time. The next, we're going to go up to ordinance 2329, which is ordinance sponsored by Councilman Oliver, myself. This would be ordinance 2309, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code to create a procedure whereby residents may petition the Department of Public Works to conduct traffic studies and install traffic calming devices. And this is something that we've been working on for a couple of years. You know, Mr. Tate talks about it in certain areas. I know Councilman McCoy talks about it in front of her school, and I know down by Bancroft. It's just certain areas, not all over the city where people are flying, but it's certain areas where kids are crossing to go to school, and the guards are out there, and sometimes they get there late, and they're just flying by, and it's real dangerous out there. So we did meet with Del Dot, and we had a group coming from Philly and talk about the common devices. And some of them are not as expensive as people thought they were. You know, some of them is 15, 20, maybe 15 to 20,000, and it's nothing that's going to affect the fire trucks or the police. It's just something that hard rubber that you might roll over with your car and you just hear the noise, so it makes you panic. But it's just a rubber device, the ones that we were talking about. And we put some money in the budget for it. And there is, you have to have 25 or more residents that will sign a petition to submit it, and it's up to the Commissioner of Public Works to sit down and send somebody out to see if that particular area really needs it. So I thought it would be good as a pilot program for certain areas that we just keep getting complaints, such as Mr. Tate, who's been coming here for at least 8 to 10 years talking about, he puts the kids on the bus every morning, he does it volunteering, and the cars just fly around there, and I went out there personally and sat in a car and watched how the cars were just speeding, going around the bus, and whoever's driving the bus is not taking the tags because they're busy trying to help the kids get on. So I think it's a good thing. There is a fiscal impact, but we really don't know. We just put the amount that if it was, how much it may respectively cost approximately. But the lady did say they were from anywhere from 15 to 25,000. But we don't see just putting them all over the city. It was just a pilot. So do we have any questions from council members? We have any questions from anyone from the public? Okay, this, Councilman Field? You'd like to be recognized. So we'd like to recognize Councilman Field. I'm sorry. Councilman Fields, I'd like to give credit, but credit's due. He helped me with this legislation also.
Madam Chair, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Yep. I think, well, I guess Councilman Fields said at the meeting, but I know he wanted to be, because he was the one working with me on this.
Yes, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you.
Councilman Harley?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any council members, other council members that like to make any comments? Do we have any individuals in the chambers or online that would like to make any comments? If not, this is an ordinance. It needs to be voted out of committee. May I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. This will be on June the 6th agenda for City Council. Now we have Councilman James Spadola. What's your resolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this resolution calls for a parking study to be conducted in the city of Wilmington, focused on the future, focused on not even what are we doing wrong, but what could we be doing better, or what are we not even thinking about that other cities are doing that we could implement to make for a better parking experience for visitors, residents, and other stakeholders. I do have some specifics on the back page, but it's totally in flux, and I would encourage my council members not to get bogged down in any of the nuance, in the sense that this is just my thought process. If council were to pass this, what I would do and what I would ask council staff to do would be, I'd reach out to some, companies that do this all over the country, try to narrow it down to 3, get them to present at another Public Works Committee, get a cost, and also it'd be a good time for, I know the complaints I hear about parking are, issues with the parking permit pass not going through. How can I get a better guest parking permit experience? How can we get contractor permits better? That would be the opportunity, I think, for district council members and everybody to dive into the concerns they hear that I might not be hearing. But really, this is just about, in a nutshell, we're doing parking like it's the 90s, and people are coming into the city for work, eating downtown, and then going home on the weekends. And we've really kind of evolved past that since the endemic, with us having busier weekend crowds and lunch crowds. And this is just about how can we, reimagine parking moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Spadola. Do we have any comments from any council members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sure.
May I ask my colleague, what's the definition of amenities?
Amenities, as in,
Procedures and amenities to meet the demands of the modern motors.
amenities in the sense, I think we think of amenities, if you go to a hotel, they've got a nice soap, they've got a nice shampoo. In the parking sense, an amenity might be, a way to use your phone to, reserve a spot ahead. just a fancier way or a better way to get something done.
May I have one
Sure,
follow-up?
follow up, sure.
And I notice, is it intentional that you don't mention, or there's not signage mentioned in your?
No, and that's one of the things that I think would totally be under the scope. It's just that it's not mentioned. You know, there's a lot of things in here not mentioned. This is just, you know, a rough working draft with, you know, this is not, this is something that we would eventually take the administration, if it were to pass, and if we, at a public works meeting, we liked what we heard from somebody, then we'd really drill down into the specifics. But I just, as you saw my email probably last week, so I just threw some things in here, just to put it on paper. But
Right.
that's where we are.
So I just want them just to be aware was a good idea. Okay, and thank you. And this is a resolution, so it doesn't have to be voted out of committee. Do we have any questions? Councilman Harley.
Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, council members, for I guess, you know, causing us to pay attention to this, you know, from a different perspective. One, have you identified a city, or are you familiar with another city that has a model that you are aware of that we can consider? That's one. Two, are we going to consider some of the data that has already been collected, suggestions and recommendations from the grant and some of those, you know, individuals? So I'm just kind of curious, did you have anything that you have observed that can point us in a certain direction?
Sure. So Rehoboth Beach recently engaged with the Rossi Group to conduct a parking study, and they had some improvements that they suggested. But I think to your point, Councilmember Harley, like, I don't know what city is doing parking the best. But I do know that there's, you know, people that do this, that live, eat, and breathe parking 24/7, that nobody in City Hall or in the administration has the bandwidth to do. So let's go to the experts to see who is doing better, not just in one city, but take the best practices from all the cities that the parking consultant has worked with or is knowledgeable about, and let's bring them back here and let's implement them.
Okay, a follow-up, Madam Chair?
Sure, please.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The one thing that I think that we really want to be kind of targeted with is I think considering cities of our makeup. Of course, Rehoboth Beach is a beach town, which how people, you know, move around differently. I'm not sure what the population is, but like all of those, I think, are factors that we have to consider, just other than just, you know, collecting a bunch of data. But I think it's always good to try to come as close to comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, you know, a city our size with some of the variables that we have. You know, we have a city where 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, downtown was basically a business district, and now is, you know, business and residential. And so I just wanted to point that out as we, you know, move forward in trying to come up with a best practice, that we were looking at similar lifestyles and how we move around in the city of Wilmington.
Sure, and
Thank you.
I think if a parking consultant company came in here and said, hey, you should do what Rehoboth Beach does, we'd laugh them out of the room. That's just an example of, you know, a recent study
Right.
that was done. Yeah, but
Correct.
I think of our compensation study and how it had comparables, had, you know, in Salem County. Imagine that, but for parking. You know, municipalities that are comparable, that aren't comparable, and just bringing us a lot of information with some specific recommendations. But yes, I
Right.
agree.
Okay.
We definitely need to hear some good comparables from cities specifically.
Great, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone in out here who would, in the committee room who would like to, or online, to make any comments regarding this resolution? There's no one that'd like to make any comments in the committee room or on virtually. This is a resolution, it's not to be voted out. And next, we're going to go to the presentation because we don't have our council member here for the next resolution. So if y'all can come up, Delmarva Powell, we well appreciate it. Could you please state your name and your title? Whoever's going to talk first.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Nadira Alston. I am the External Affairs Manager for Delmarva Power. With me, I have Jeff Miles, our Senior Manager of our Gas Department. And then also to my right, I have Jason Ellison, who is the Gas Project Manager. So we're here today to present on our gas renewable projects. We want council and the public aware of the gas main upgrade work that we're doing. And also we want to make sure that everyone is informed. And also for council, if you even get additional questions from your constituents, those who have not been able to witness this presentation, you'll be able to answer their questions better. In our presentation, we'll tell you why we're doing the work, how we're doing the work, also how we're communicating with our customers, and then also other additional measures that we're taking. So at this time, I will transition over to Jeff Miles to start the presentation.
Thank
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us here today. Thank you.
Sure.
So you can actually probably just go right to the next slide. So like the what and the why. So, it's replacing old aging infrastructure. So it's 41,000 feet of low pressure gas mains, primarily from the 30s, 40s, and 50s when it was originally installed. And we're going to be installing 25,000 feet of new high pressure polyethylene pipe. So this is what the standard is across the industry for any of this high pressure main that's being installed. We're replacing 1,200 this year. It's 1,200 low pressure gas services. It's a mix of plastic, copper, and steel services that were many of them from the 80s and 90s with new high pressure polyethylene. So what does that do? It really improves reliability. It's less prone to leaks as well as less prone to outage events within the city. It improves safety. We're installing overpressure protection, so there's a regulator with the meter now at the house that has overpressure protection. There's an excess flow valve that's installed on every service. So if an excavator hits a service, it'll shut the gas off going to that house so that it's really no gas blowing still. And it's a relocation of the meter and the regulator outside the house. That's the goal, is to get the majority of them outside the house and located, because this way we don't have any high pressure gas within the residence. The map there is showing our 2024 projects that are in flight. It's Haynes Park East and West is what we're calling the purple and the orange. There's the triangle, which is in the green, Baynard Village in the red, and then down on the towards the bottom left corner is the Jackson Street project. So last year we completed all the work in the North Wilmington section, and now we're going to complete the next section there of everything that's on that side of the Brandywine. And then if you go to next slide, this is going to be what the 2025 projects and where we're forecasting to be working in 2025, so that you can have a preview of that. And if you want to, we can come back and talk about that again next year as we progress through this. A big piece of this I want to note is when we complete this, this will be the bulk of pretty much everything done within the city of Wilmington. So this will complete all the major work that we've been working on for the last 15 to 20 years of replacing the infrastructure. So this is the final push and the final year of it. With 2026, the first 6 months will be some final just retirement of some of additional assets that are in the ground, and that'll be it for that project. So that'll be the bulk of the work to be complete in the city for this cast iron renewal project. If you want to go to the next slide. So what's the how? So you can see the trench there. That's typically we'll trench down, install the mains and services, and that's where we come back and put that concrete and then the final hot mix across. So we try and minimize the disturbance to the roadway and put as small a cutback as possible. We avoid street closures where possible. There are times when we have to do that. We do make reasonable efforts to provide a notification for parking impacts. There are some examples in the back of the presentation that showed those notifications. It's new service risers and regulators will be located outside. The meters, where possible, we will locate outside, as I mentioned. We do need to access the customer's home to be able to make the final connections up to their existing fuel lines. We do contact them we send letters, door hangers, phone, and email that we have on records, and we typically takes about 6 hours of interruption from tying them over to the new high-pressure service. Most appointments are during normal business hours from Monday to Friday, but we do have times we can schedule evening or weekend appointments for the customers as requested to try and work with them as well. Go to the next slide, please. So what's the when, right? So when are we gonna be complete? This year, we were able to get a lot of work started in February, so we see it being done by Thanksgiving, wrapped up with all the services and the main work. The temporary restoration, we are going right along as we're putting the main in and putting down the hot mix asphalt for each trench and restoring those trenches as we go. We're putting in the semi-final restoration on each street after we get all the services tied over. For private property, we'll do topsoil and seed. We'll put in the meter screens where they're requested at. We'll do the sidewalk replacements where we impact the sidewalk. And then, as I mentioned, the trench restoration with the concrete road base and the asphalt. Final mill and pave of the streets, depending on how much we impact, it'll be half or the full street. I know during the last presentation, Vince had talked about how they come back and do the restoration. Typically, we anticipate within 12 months they're coming back and doing their final restoration piece after we've done our temporary final restoration. If you go to the next slide, these are some nice pictures. These are what your constituents should expect to see from the meter and regulator installations. We will put them on the sides in the back of properties. We try to do the sides where we can access it, or if it's in the rear, we do not like to put it behind fences though, because sometimes it's a matter of protecting our own employees because fences have dogs and things that we cannot see all the time. So we do prefer to have them where we can more easily access them and not in a fenced-in yard. So if you go to the next slide. And we do like it away from a driveway. Now, in that one picture, there was a driveway there, but it's far enough away off the driveway we feel comfortable with that location. Meter concealment options. We do offer this upon request. Some good examples of some of the different screening options that are available, whether it be these boxes or planters that we have.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said at an individual's request, when they come out and put these boxes, are they asking them? Because you just said at a request, how would an individual know they can get one of these plantaries to block that? How would a person know if no one told them? And I'm saying that because I see it in certain neighborhoods, but I don't see it in certain neighborhoods. So how would an individual know they're able to maybe get a plantery or something to conceal?
So the way the individuals do know, if they do not like what the meters look like or the risers look like, then they can contact us. And at the end of this presentation, we'll give a phone number that individuals can call if they have questions or any issues. If they do not like what it looks like, then they can call us to request it. It's not something that we publicize only because some people like it. It doesn't bother them. But if it bothers you for your property and you want to put one in front of your property for the aesthetic reasons, then you may call the number to ask for one.
And lots of times it's also communicated with our gas field techs that are on site as well. And they'll be able to communicate with them if they would want something to cover up the meter. And then that reaches me or Nadira, and then we'll get that taken care of.
So, thank you.
Next slide, please. I know it's some small print, but these are just some, trying to show some examples of the one is the initial letter sent out. And then the other is a door hanger of the notice of the work ahead of time. So we will send letters to all the people that are affected, and then also a door hangers, just to alert them of the upcoming work. And if you go to the next slide, that's about the additional outreach. We do have door hangers to notify, you know, we're doing door knocks when they're out there. Our field techs or the other crews installing the services will do door knocks to try and schedule with the customer when they're out there. We do find that to be very effective, the door knocks. Probably the most effective means to really get in touch with the customers and when they see them and their cars are home. But we also put door hangers, and we get customers calling us back that way. And then we did start a new, the right-hand door hanger is about the restoration work, just to alert the customers. This is something we started doing this year of, here's what the expectation is, timeline, and trying to stay ahead of that. Because I know there's been complaints when, if they're not seeing it done right away, we're trying to make sure we're setting the, you know, just expectation of when they'll see that restoration performed.
Question, did y'all bring any of the restoration so we could see it physically?
You know, we did not.
did
We
not.
can get you some though. Sorry about, yeah.
Oh, that would be nice for
Yeah.
council members, so when
Okay.
we're at our civic association meetings, just to show them that, you know, this may be coming, so they can be aware of it.
Yep,
So
yeah, we'll
it's
get
not
you
like their
those.
first time seeing it and y'all getting unnecessary calls.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay.
So Councilwoman Oliver, I can work with you to make sure that you get that, so for
Thank
your
you.
next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and I can get it
Present
to Public Works Vice Chair, so we can get that out and put in some council members' mailboxes so they know.
Okay.
And is, would you like to talk about that's what you was talking about?
So-
Yes, and then the last one there is, could you go to the last slide? Next slide. Oh, there it is. It was a little delayed, sorry. So Nadira is obviously the contact, you know, if you guys have any issues, but there's the gas renewals at delmarva.com or the 302-429-3291 number. The phone number is a person at a desk. Now, it may go to the voicemail, and we typically will respond within 48 hours. But that is a number there with a voicemail, or it could be a person will answer, but it is an active phone number. It's not just automatically to a voicemail. We do tell people, expect, if they do end up getting to the voicemail, to expect a response within 48 hours. We've actually seen a lot of really good responses through the gas renewals email box. The customers are emailing there, and we're able to schedule a lot of appointments there rather than tying people up on the phone. I think the customers appreciate the fact of just emailing so they can do it at their convenience on off hours when they're home rather than trying to call in during the day, because it is manned 7 to 3. That's the typical business hours that employees at their desk. So
Okay, thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
You said y'all should be almost completed with all of this installation. So is this the last area? Have you completed the east side? I see you've completed the west side and Southbridge area.
Yes.
Now you're over in 40 acres and all. Is that what you're saying?
yes, correct. The east side was done, I think in 2020, I
Right.
believe. Yeah. Yes,
Okay, I was
because
just saying,
actually, yes,
I was
when
just
the
saying it for the public so people know.
Understood.
Most of the areas are done. I just see now on the map, you're doing 40 acres and
Yep.
Cool Spring area. Is that Trinity y'all working up in that area?
Yes.
And also Brandywine, Midtown Brandywine?
Midtown Brandywine, there is a last little pieces in there,
Mm-hmm.
but the bulk of Midtown Brandywine was actually done about, I think, 3 years ago.
How about Little Italy? I see them on here.
Which one?
Little Italy, right over
Little-
here.
That's
Yeah.
2025.
That's the one, there was some projects there for Union Sheep, but that will be the last of that for Little Italy. Yep.
Okay.
The remainder of it has been done. These are the last little pockets that we've had, so, we were targeting some of the oldest areas and some of the areas where we trend it and look at the leak areas, and we were also targeting some of those areas. So some of the areas that were already done is because they were maybe in the worst condition. So here now, as we're getting, this is just some of those parts of the cleanup parts that we were not able to get at this time, so.
Okay,
Or there's moratoriums too. I think we're waiting till the moratoriums are up too.
okay.
That was another
Is
issue.
there something that you'd like to say?
No,
You
no,
sure?
miss.
Okay. So for individuals who need their gas, need the new gas lines, we will put the number up so you can have it. If, Wendell, if you could put up the gas renewal while we're still talking so they can see the number, that would be good. I think, Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you. I see on the 2025 forecast, you have Madison Street. You have Madison Street. It was about a few years ago that you put the big ones in front of their houses, right? Are you putting?
Yes. That is, I'm trying to see on the map there. Yeah,
Wait a minute, is that Madison?
no, it's,
Is it everything in the box or just the?
oh, no, it's just the highlighted ones. That's
Just the
it. It's
highlighted.
on the street, yeah. So there's actually a big, and some of these areas, there's big trunk lines on Madison that really serves. It's some very large main that actually serves a lot of those areas. So there'll be some areas where that's essentially the retirement of that line, but it's really what happens is it's serving another section of the city. So it's really the, that's like the backbone. That's why that's being done. So like Madison Street, right, we have gas assets right on Madison, right by our building there. But really that's still in service, and it's maybe not serving the customers right on that block, but it's serving customers a number of blocks away, and that's really representing some final restoration work that we're gonna have to do in that area. So.
Okay. Matt, can I follow up?
Sure, please.
So you're gonna leave the big ones there, right? Is that what you said?
No, the big ones will go away too, though. All that will be retired, cut off, and done.
Okay.
Yep,
Oh, okay, that's what I wanted to know.
yes.
One more follow-up.
Sure.
A few years ago, I know that the constituents on Madison Street, they had issues with the front of their houses where they put the meters at, like some of the, I want to say stucco fell off or whatever from them putting the meters on, and they didn't get anything resolved from it because it wouldn't have came off unless they, without the meters having to be there, then that's why it came off. But I'll definitely follow up later, but I kind of wanted you all to know, like, that was like a main thing for the people on Madison Street. So it's older people, homeowners, so they might be a little bit more hesitant. So, I definitely would like to be able to have that conversation with you all off camera and see how we can work with them. Please.
Not a problem.
Yep, no
Thank you.
problem.
We have any, Councilman Spadola?
Thank you. What, is there a, how far, if you fixed somebody's house 2 years ago and they called you today for a meter concealment option?
Usually it's when we're out there at that time, so we're not going back and retroactively doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, once the project's, we kind of look at it like once the project's closed out, that's the end of those pieces there, so.
Councilman White?
I think I'm not a happy camper with this project. I understand the seriousness and why you did it, but I think you guys did not do a good job in communicating the extent of this work to the residents. I've received so many calls regarding this matter, and I just think DP&L could have done a better job. But back to a couple of things, I'll tell you why. There was no, at least in my area, which is 9th Ward, there was no mitigation to stop the spoilage from running into the grates. Now, I would thought that that would be, and Vince may know the proper term of that, where you cover the grates. So I had communities, I had blocks that their grates were filled with sludge. Now, so I have to call the public works to clean that out. But I asked the manager on site for 3 days, weren't you supposed, your scope of work included protect the runoff, and nothing. And if you go into any community now that this project is being done, I can guarantee you there's still no grates mitigation in there. So, and I know I'll get in trouble because I'm not asking, I'm not going to ask questions, but, and I don't know if I heard Councilman Spadola's question regarding the covering up of these meters, but did I hear you say after you left a project you won't come back and do protective coverings for that?
I mean, there has to be some sunset after the project's concluded that we're not coming back.
Okay.
And
But part of my chair's comments to you was, how would someone know that? So you seem to be, I'm hearing it today, but I didn't know that, and I know there's, so I guess it would be kind of punitive to people who didn't know that they could request this type of coverage, because it's much more attractive than, as my colleague said, as a plain meter. I mean, I hope I'm not too late to request it, but I just think within all the resources that your company has in providing services throughout the state, I just think it was sort of some missteps, especially the runoff into these drains that has, I've got to call Public Work, and it's 2 or 3 feet deep, which means that there's possibility that water's going to back up into people's homes. So those are my concerns, and I appreciate what you're doing, but I just think we could have managed that a little bit better, and if that was through Parks and Rec, Public Works, but there's just no way that I think that we should have this kind of spillage in these drains throughout this community. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't included in the scope of work. Maybe this wasn't a contractor's issue. So if I am, please enlighten me.
I'd like to get back to you on that one, though, because I would like to follow up after this on related to that, especially if you're saying it's occurring still. I'm not sure when exactly we had addressed your property, in what year.
It was last year.
It's last year, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. If I may ask, you said it was last year. I mean, I've only been with the company for about 6-7 months now, but I know we have an environmental department that takes a strong, approach to this, and we have contractors that come out and monitor our job sites and send us reports every week.
Well, I can appreciate that, but again, I don't know where you guys at. You moved out of my. I guarantee you, if you go any place you're digging up the street right now and go to the grate, it's not covered.
I agree.
I guarantee you. And I'm only just want to pick up because I know you have a strong environmental record, but I want to make certain that record is applied to all communities. And for us to then have Public Works to go out and clean out that, I just think it's just mind-boggling and offensive. But I guarantee you, I'll wait to take your comments back, and you got a site that's going on now and those grates are covered, protected, you let me know, but I don't think you're going to find them.
So I wanted-
Typically, you're going to put, not say covered, but straw bales around it to maintain that, to manage it. But
Well, when I say cover, protected, you
Protected.
use whatever word you
understood.
use.
I just
potato,
expect-
say potato.
But the slough that was in my
Understood.
grate
yeah,
was 2/3 covering it,
sure.
and water was running over into the street. And I did, contact Public Works. I just think it's a misstep, that's all. I think it's a
Yeah,
misstep.
I would like to get back to you on that, though.
Thank
if you could.
Councilmember.
So I do want to say,
Councilman Harley, I'm sorry.
well, before Councilwoman Harley goes, I want to say thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we will take that back, have that discussion, and I will work with you as well so that we can look at that. We have made great progress with our communication because as this project has been going on for a few years, there has been some changes that we have made with our communication. So thank you for those comments, and we even ask all of those who are experiencing this project that any concerns that they have, that they do tell us what happened. Because also too, we are working with contractors, and with contractors, we do have standards. However, sometimes things are done a little different, we may not know. But as soon as we are notified, we're making sure that we are on top of that, no matter where you are. So we want to make sure that all areas are being treated with the same respect. So thank you for that, and we will talk more about that.
Councilman Harley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What was just shared is a good segue into a couple of questions that I have. So one, my first question is about what percentage of the work is being done by contractors?
All the main installation work is being done by contractors. All of our pipe fitting work, I'll say 95% of the pipe fitting work of the actual physical meter and fuel line work is being done by internal personnel. And so there's 1,200 services being installed, and 300 are being done by internal people, 900 are being done by contractors. So that's the basic breakdown of them. But as I said, all the work that's being done to the home of the pipe fitting work and the fuel line work is being done, 95% of that's being done by internal personnel.
Okay, all right. And,
You may follow up.
yes, thank you. And as it relates to these covers, for some of the communities that you are currently working on, and I think I heard you say that, you know, you don't want to go back too far into projects that have been completed, but a number of the projects that have been completed are in certain communities. I don't want to get into ethnic races and things of that nature, but how do you justify some communities getting the covers and some communities don't? I'm just trying to understand that.
So Councilwoman Harley, with the covers, those only came about for those who really complained, who did not like it. The expectation was not that, we didn't think that people would have a big concern about the meters being out front. But since we had some major complaints about it and the look to the area, then that's where we started to work to have the covers. So the covers are only for those who do complain or find it as, some may say, an eyesore. If you find it as an eyesore, then it's a conversation that we can have. We didn't include the covers for everybody because the project has a budget. And with that budget, who incurs that cost? The customers. So the more covers we have to do, the higher the cost is, and the more the cost for the customers. To alleviate that, it was only for those who complained for it.
And my last question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
My last question. Okay, I have to come back. But thank you for your response as it relates to the covers and how you determine who received those covers. But when you think about this project and who's actually doing the project, Delmarva, Exelon, you know, they've increased everyone's, you know, our utility costs, right? And we know that everything is going up post pandemic, but if that is what your rationale is, that's fine. And then my last question is this, because it's been a while, what is the purpose of all of the changing of all the pipes? If you can just share that at a very, very, very high level, what is the purpose and the value and benefit of all of these changes?
It really goes down to the age of the infrastructure and updating to,
Excuse me, point of order. We just reviewed this whole package, Councilman Harley. I mean, they just went over that unless you missed it.
If I didn't miss it, you can move forward. I'll reach out. I just wanted,
I mean,
you
if you
know.
want to answer it again briefly, go ahead.
yeah, it really is about the age of the infrastructure and replacing it. You know, the assets are over 100 years old, some of them, and it's about eliminating leak-prone assets.
There, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry, as a follow-up, that's what Vince, I mean, I didn't, when I said they went, I didn't mean to say y'all, meant to say Vince. I apologize for that. But any more questions, Councilman Harley?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I wanted to make a statement, or to follow up what Councilman Vince stated. And Ms. Alston, you're very aware of this, and so is Vince. I do agree with this drainage because, and I'm going to use his name because he has sent in so many emails, and I think it's sad, and I am going to call the color, I am going to pull the race card out. Mr. Martin, who's been on the east side for almost 40-something years, he's never had a problem with his plumbing. The contractors came out. He said the drainage was occurring, and he said it was obvious. It was just bubbling over. He went to the contractor's truck. The contractor smelled like alcohol. He said something is wrong. My plumbing, all this drainage is running, is backing up, whatever. Everything you just said, Councilman White. he said, the guy said, no, it's not from us. He said he's never had no problems. He started calling the city immediately. He started calling me. He was very upset. He called me. I reached out to Delmarva Power. Miss Alston reached out to someone from the city and also said it was everyone said it was the contractors. The contractor did it. The next day, the contractors came back. The man, Mr. Martin, came out there. That they said that guy's no longer on that job. So I have to agree with Mr. Martin. Somehow that guy got moved somewhere else. Long story short, his because of all that drainage, his house has not been right. And I think it's only fitting for us to know, because you call, you don't know if Delmarva is doing the work, you don't know who's doing the work, and someone should know who's out there doing that work on the streets, because it's definitely with transportation. Until today, because of all that drainage in Mr. Martin's basement and on the drain that was all filled up, Public Works had to come out and clean that drain. It was just so much, mediation, backed up in dirt. I call it dirt drainage, y'all call it. That his house hasn't been right as of today because of the work that they did out there, and no one has taken responsibility for it. He was crying, he was upset, he's on a fixed income, and it's no secret because he sent all kind of emails, and and he said he's already contact Channel 6 for the what was that shop? What is that when they call Channel 6 for people to come investigate spotters, shoppers, or anyway, he's even got Channel 6 involved, and I'm putting that out there because I think if it was in any other community, someone would have been out. They send somebody and say, oh, no, it's your plumbing, and something happened to your plumbing. He's been there I know Mr. Martin's been there for 45 years, easy, and he's never had a problem with his plumbing until they open up that street and start doing the same work, and it was all that drain that you're talking about, Vince, and Jesse and James called, but anyway, Public Works, they did go out and clean out the drains, but I guess whatever was running, his plumbing has been messed up ever since. And it's really a shame that nobody took responsibility for it. So if he calls Channel 6 and they reach out to the Delmarva Power or the city of Wilmington, because he has flyers out now and he has a petition going on down there, and I think it's really sad that nobody's helped that man.
So
I'm gonna put that out there.
yeah, I'll put it this way. From Delmarva, we make sure that everybody gets fair treatment. So no matter what nationality, whether race, and I also take it personally too, to make sure that we, Delmarva, come to the front line if there's an issue that has occurred, that we have made the impact, that we want to make sure that it resolved. I do remember a portion of this, because this has been a while ago.
Could you send the email?
I sent people out
the
there.
city never responded to you,
Yeah,
right?
the city never responded.
I remember.
So vaguely remember, and I'm not calling anybody
No.
out. I do remember the work being done in that area. I've sent our guys out there, even project managers, lead construction managers, out there to the gentleman's home.
And they
just
all
to-
said the same
Yeah,
thing.
you're right, because from what the work, and just because I don't have all of the exact details in front of me, I want to make sure that, being clear, that we made sure that once we got the notification, that I received that, made sure I dispatched, made sure that we had people on the scene to make sure that if it was our work, to investigate. And then it's also to follow up with the city. I haven't heard anything about it again until now with you, because I thought that we were at a resolve point, because I know.
I said it because nothing has been resolved. I
Yeah.
mean, no one has came, somebody just keeps saying it's him, and it's him, and it never was him for 45 years. And he's like, I'm not going crazy. And I'm like, I'm not a professional, I don't know. And, him and his wife is saying they never had no problems until whoever the contractor was, but we found out it wasn't Delmarva, it wasn't your contractor, it was someone who was a subcontractor, I guess, with the city. That's what I'm saying. We should know that who's doing the work in certain areas, because then you say, oh, it could be somebody doing some infrastructures. I mean, but we're signing these contracts with people, so somebody has to know. Delmarva's out one day, this person's out the next day. Where's the checks and balances for the residents who have an issue. So we, he was like, there's all these people doing work, and it was trucks everywhere, and nobody's taking responsibility. And, I mean, we could talk about it off record, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to
and we
put it out
can.
there publicly.
And I do like that you clarified that,
Yeah.
Delmarva was out there. We
Yeah.
felt that as far as it wasn't our responsibility, but then having been resolved from on the
Still
other
hasn't been
side. But we can talk about that offline, then also too, it would be good to bring in the city as well, so to
Yeah,
finalize that.
We could do that, and I could bring him in, so we can
Okay.
just keep him calm, because he's knocking on my door and sending and calling every day, and there's nothing I could do. He was down there before I came in, still talking about, he just talked to Jeff Starkey today, so it's just it's been an ongoing problem for over a year now, and I just think it's sad that one constituent and just constantly calling, and he has every right, and, so with that being said, do we have any comments or questions?
Can I ask one last question, and
Sure.
I can take it offline.
Please.
As council persons, we don't just sit here, once a month. We're out, we go to our civic meetings. I'm gonna catch heck when this half paving of these streets are get done. Because everybody, so I'm gonna get a copy of the Wilmington pavement ordinance, but the residents do not understand why only half of their streets get paved and they're left to look at it, and they don't necessarily understand that 12 months the city may come back, or some of the contractors come back to do the full street. So I just want to make sure and I communicate that. So a part of the program is dependent on impact. The street will be half or full width. And the criteria, you can send me the criteria so I can just communicate it to the civic groups, and I'll follow up with Public Works accordingly regarding the final paving.
And I want to add on to that too, that we'll even do better to make sure we're communicating those next steps. So we'll work on that to make sure that we're communicating those
Guys
next
come to
steps.
civic meetings.
Okay.
The half versus full really has to do with how much we impact. If we go through past the center line, we have to do the whole thing. That's really what it is.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Miller.
But we can send you exactly what the.
Yeah, because I'm sure my colleagues do the same. We want to communicate this, so
Understood.
it's not us just
Yep.
yakking.
And
Understood.
then also to work with me, because we have been making tours to civic associations. So we have been going around. So you can communicate with me if there's another civic association that may be going on that we're not aware of, that you would like us to come to.
Thank you.
We will definitely be there.
Thank you.
I do want to note too, though, the contractors, even, I know they're contractors, but they do work for us. So we have contracts with them. They have terms and conditions. If they're not meeting it, they're still held to the same accountability as our internal employees, right? They still, same drug and alcohol program, same quality of work, everything. And if they're not doing it, we will make them do it. So they are an extension of us. They're not our employees directly, but we do have the ability to make sure they're following exactly what they should do. So if someone has a complaint, they can call Delmarva, even if it's one of my other contractors. And all of our contractors are locally from Delaware. They're, they really have a local presence. They're not, some of the other larger contractors are just kind of coming in here for one project and leaving. So they are local to this community. So, but again, if they have an issue, they can call Delmarva, because they are still working for us, and we'll make sure they're doing what they should do. So.
Thank you.
Well, then just one last thing, and then I'll be done, is that equity is big for us. So we make sure that no matter what work we do, that we're doing work in excellence for everybody, no matter where you live, who you are. And when we see if there's a problem like that, that's something that we will resolve immediately. So if there's any other issues that you have, do not hesitate, which you all know that from council, that you can call me anytime, and when there's an issue, we can work through this. And just like even with our contractors, when things happen, some things we don't know, we need you to tell us, and then we will rectify it. So we thank you in advance for that.
Thank you so much. Would y'all two, not you, Miss, would y'all two happen to have your business cards?
Yes, we'll give you that.
Okay, please. Okay, thank you, and I would like to thank you personally for always, taking my phone calls, for helping a lot of my constituents that get their electric cut off, and you make it that they can get it cut back on and make arrangements. That doesn't mean for everybody, but I just like to make that statement, and thanks for coming out doing the presentation. And if there's no other questions, if that's the way I cut it off, I guess it's not. Is there a motion that?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, okay. It's been properly moved in second. The meeting is adjourned. Anybody opposed? Everybody say aye. Aye. Nays? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.